my audio really quick. LAPD in hot pursuit here of a stolen vehicle. That is an LAPD Olympic unit that has just picked up this pursuit. This has been going on for some time as they were in pursuit earlier and eventually put it into tracking mode. The helicopter was overhead, and eventually they just let these two go. We believe there are two people inside that car, a driver and a passenger. But again, in the last couple of minutes, they have just re-engaged with these suspects for this confirmed grand theft auto situation, who is now speeding away from that lead officer right there. He's already called for a backup unit. He's calling for an air unit who is on the way over here to help call out the location of this pursuit. So they're getting their ducks lined up in a row here. But as you can see, pretty congested traffic here on Olympic Boulevard in Mid-City as he squeezes through these cars. Look at that, LAPD trying to squeeze through with him through these busy intersections, and he's starting to put a little bit of distance between himself and that primary unit. But again, he's been driving mostly with the speed limit up until this unit lit him up just about 2 minutes ago. And now, once again, blowing through red lights here. We've seen already in the last couple of minutes a couple of really close calls as he continues to refuse to pull over. So we have a male driver. I think it is a female passenger. They actually stepped out of the vehicle. I don't know what they were doing earlier, but then we saw them get back into this vehicle. So I know those windows are pretty heavily tinted, but from what we can tell, from what we've been able to gather here, it's a male driver, a female passenger in the stolen car. LAPD trying to catch up with these two.
Yeah, Chris, great coverage there from Air 7. This is now westbound on Olympic. Mark Cotterobles here and Colleen Sullivan as well on the desk. Very dangerous driving. Colleen, we saw when Air 7 initially got overhead with Chris. We did see that moment as well when the driver and passenger were out of the car. And Chris, I got to tell you, they looked young, maybe teenagers. So certainly a dangerous situation. And I got to assume that maybe that will come into play with police and how they handle this situation.
Well, they did appear young. I mean, they did. They almost appeared to be juvenile age. But, you know, again, what else they may be wanted for, what other crimes may be associated with these two. Is it simply just a joyride in a vehicle that does not belong to them? Was it actually stolen from a stranger, or was this taken by the parents without permission? You know, those are all some of the questions that we have to ask to decide, you know, how urgently LAPD wants to catch up with them. Again, they have information we don't, but the fact that they have re-engaged may tell us something. Now, they did let it go for a reason. They felt like it was just not serious enough or not worth the risk to keep pursuing. But when you see them pick it up again, is it because they've seen something or learned something about these two that makes it more dangerous? Were they tempted to pick this pursuit up because they know that the news media was following? That is potentially part of the equation here. There's lots of things that go into the supervisor and the watch commander's decision to continue these pursuits, when to halt them, when to put it into surveillance mode, when to pick it up again. It really is a lot of calculus that goes on into these decisions. But from what we can tell, they are now rededicating themselves to this pursuit, and the more they follow him, you can see the more speed he picks up. And I would say, it's suffice to say, he is driving dangerously now as he continues westbound on Olympic Boulevard.
Absolutely dangerous driving conditions right there. And it makes you very nervous because you do see a lot of cars out there. I'm holding my breath as this driver goes through intersections because this person is definitely not stopping, not yielding, just... And we saw, as we were in tracking mode, we saw the driver being calm. Now it's, I mean, Chris, this does not look like it's going to have a good ending.
Especially if he continues blowing through these red lights. In fact, it does appear that that primary unit may have pulled back a little bit. Rob, when you get a chance, I just want to see how far back he is. He's about a block back. You can see him coming up, racing along the median. That officer now is in oncoming lanes of traffic, going over the double yellow lines, trying desperately to catch up with that silver sedan. Right now, that primary unit, Colleen and Mark, is by himself. He is still waiting for backup, still waiting for a secondary unit to help him in this pursuit. But right now, he is by himself. And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, is that airship back here, or is he is back? Okay, so airship number 3 has just pulled up here, so he does have eyes in the sky helping him coordinate, but they do not have enough backup as he now straddles those double yellow lines, going into oncoming lanes of traffic on a very busy Olympic Boulevard, continuing to blow through red lights. this does not look like it's going to end well, to your point, Mark.
Yeah, very dangerous driving. You got the red lights and the stop signs that this driver is now blowing through. Adding to that, for what it's worth, I've seen multiple Waymos as well. This is one of the areas of LA where Waymos, those driverless cars, are allowed. That's another factor involved, that maybe they don't have, the same ability to avoid a vehicle like this as a driver would. So many concerning factors at play with this pursuit. We're coming up on 3 p.m. You, of course, are watching this live breaking coverage on our streaming channel, and you just want these two to stop the car, give it up, because this is just way too dangerous.
And I don't know if you saw in that intersection just a moment ago in the crosswalk, Chris, you may have witnessed somebody just starting to run through that crosswalk. They were in the crosswalk, a marked crosswalk, but it looked like they had something. And now you can see this driver is just doing everything it can to get out of the way of these police cars. And it's in oncoming traffic. Oh, going to take a side street, Chris.
And that move was right in front of that Waymo that I was mentioning. So certainly a wild ride, an experience for maybe passengers in these vehicles, because you get to certain parts of town and they really are kind of loaded with those cars. Very, very concerning. You worry so much about pedestrians. It's now after school, so people leaving school in the street. This is definitely an added concern for police and the public right now.
Yeah, especially as he starts zigzagging through this residential neighborhood, much narrower streets, going a little bit slower, but if he picks up steam again, he may not feel the pressure right now because he doesn't see that primary unit behind him. But look at him now, he is picking up a little bit of speed here now on South Cannon Drive at Charlottesville Boulevard, continuing northbound now on Cannon Drive, heading into West Hollywood here, adjacent to Beverly Hills, and LAPD still a distance away here. And you're right, we have seen a large number of Waymos just in the last 5 or 10 minutes. We're really testing those Waymo reflexes as he cut off that Waymo and then snaked around traffic to find that side street and end up now just a few blocks north on Wilshire Boulevard, now going eastbound, making a screwy-oo-y on Wilshire, now going back westbound on Wilshire Boulevard. We're on Wilshire at Cannon. Again, 2 suspects inside this car believed to be stolen. LAPD trying to catch up. The airship overhead calling out the location. And look at that black and white. He has been able to make his way up here on Wilshire with backup. There's the airship. A full pursuit package now in place to continue to safely pursue this suspect as long as he is driving at manageable speeds. Beverly Hills PD also monitoring this pursuit, likely just keeping an eye on it as it passes through their jurisdiction. But you can see we're now at a very busy intersection with pedestrians crossing, and this suspect really has no trouble cutting other people off at his whim. And it really is erratic driving that we're seeing, guys.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this area, Beverly Hills. There's so many shoppers out. Again, at this time of day, so many people out and about, so dangerous. Again, a lot of people don't even pay attention to something like this. I guess when you hear the helicopters overhead, but you can see this driver is taking such extreme risks. You can see people, they don't realize that something's happening. But there is something so dangerous happening right before them, and to see this driver, it would just scare the living daylights out of me if I saw this.
Those 2 women had no idea what was coming through the crosswalk, so thank goodness the driver slowed down. But yeah, right here, essentially in the heart of Beverly Hills, I think just past the Rodeo Drive shopping district. And Chris, let me ask you, you've had great camera work here from Air 7. The damage there on the right front fender, it seemed like earlier there was even some damage to the left front wheel as well, or something hanging. Since you've been overhead, have you seen any contact with other vehicles?
Great question. I was not aware of the damage, but now as we push in really closely on that front right fender, you can see that damage that you're speaking of. I do not know, to answer your question, whether that occurred during this pursuit, whether it happened today, whether it was there previously. I can tell you, to answer your question more specifically, we've seen a number of close calls, but as far as I can tell, no clear collisions. But look at right here, he's threading the needle here, colliding with those those stick cones and coming within inches of other motorists.
Yeah, we're getting very close to our 3 o'clock hour right now as we follow this pursuit. But again, we are watching this driver on Wilshire Boulevard take extreme moves to not be caught.
Okay, stay with us. You're on our streaming coverage, and we are moments away from beginning Eyewitness News at 3 p.m. We will continue our coverage. Stay with us.
This is Eyewitness News with live breaking news.
We are following breaking news right now, a very dangerous pursuit. Let's go to Air 7 and Chris Christie for the details. Chris?
Lost it.
All right, we're following this pursuit. Chris, I'm not sure if you hear us, but I'm Colleen Sullivan along with Mark Cotorobles. Chris Christie, we've been monitoring this pursuit. We saw the LAPD re-engage moments ago. This has taken such a dangerous turn.
Okay, we'll pause as Chris Christie gets his audio connection to us, but we are watching this silver Ford sedan right there in the middle lanes. Colleen, moments ago, this passed through the Beverly Hills area, now into Westwood on Wilshire and Beverly Glen right now. Very concerning. What we have right now is a young male driver and a young female in the passenger seat. We saw a video earlier when they actually stepped out of the car, and Colleen, these appeared to be juveniles, teenagers, and police right now in pursuit. Again, at one point they did pull back, even stopped tracking the pursuit. They have since, within the past few minutes, have now re-engaged. And of course, we are overhead and working to get Chris Christie back connected to us to get his vantage point on what he's seeing. Chris, can you hear us now?
Hey, Mark, I've got you.
Okay.
I've got you.
Take it from here. You know, what are you seeing?
Up here.
So much of the concern there we saw a moment ago were the crosswalks and the pedestrians out there.
Yep, coming towards us once again, westbound Wilshire Boulevard through Westwood here, through the Wilshire corridor. LAPD with a full pursuit package behind the suspect with an airship overhead. However, they have pulled back ever so slightly because of the speeds here. So he's got a wide open Wilshire Boulevard after a number of really close calls in very congested traffic. Now he's encountering a little bit more pavement to play with here. He's using full use of those lanes. He's really all over the place as he speeds through whatever cars are in his way. He's been blowing through red lights, blowing through stop signs. As we mentioned earlier, there is some damage to this vehicle that we do not know how that occurred. However, we do believe that this is a stolen vehicle. LAPD was in pursuit earlier this afternoon. They let it go, and just in the last 20 minutes have picked it up once again, and they are rededicating themselves to pulling these two off the road. At one point, the vehicle pulled over. Two suspects jumped out of the vehicle, a male and a female driver, very young in age, appeared to be either teenagers or young 20s, and eventually got back in the car as they attempted to flee police. And then once again, LAPD picked up the pursuit on Olympic Boulevard. Now, right next to this bus here, passing over subway construction on Wilshire Boulevard as we continue through West LA here, now getting closer to the 405 freeway. I would venture to say they're going to go right under the 405. If they get on the 405, it's going to be jam-packed in both directions, but we will see what they decide to do here. Again, I imagine they will continue right underneath that 405 overpass, but maybe not. Look at this. They're getting on the freeway, getting on the northbound side of the 405 freeway, which is jam-packed on a Thursday afternoon. This is not a smart move. This will allow LAPD to catch up with them rather quickly. CHP taking note, perhaps getting into place if LAPD that assistance. They can hand this off to California Highway Patrol. We will see how it plays out here. But now, I think considering all of the close calls and dangerous maneuvers that we've been witnessing here, guys, to see them this close as they're about to be with so much rush hour traffic and so many innocent commuters on the 405, I don't think this is something they're going to let go lightly. So they're going to try and catch up, especially once they have to slow down here. Right now, there's so much traffic, they're really making full use of that right shoulder. And that's only going to take them so far. Of course, they can continue on the shoulder right up the Sepulveda Pass, but at some point, law enforcement will catch up with them here. Either LAPD or CHP, somebody is going to catch up with these guys until they are completely boxed in. And that's where we're going to take a deep breath, because there is just so much other variables here in terms of other traffic and innocent motorists, and basically at the top of the rush hour coming up here.
No doubt about it. And you could see them on the shoulder. It's a miracle that there's no construction work also happening here, because any person who drives this corridor knows that this area is so congested. And to see the driver taking such extreme measures to drive so quickly on this area. It's always full of traffic. Now they're actually going on the lanes. I'm thinking they're still staying on the 405 North. They didn't want to take the exit, Chris. But again, I'm surprised they're not encountering gridlock traffic. But I cannot wait for this car to pull over because it is just, it's nerve-wracking to watch.
So many close calls. And Chris, let me ask you this. When it comes to tactics right now, back on the freeway, what are the chances that more likely to see a potential pit maneuver if they get closer? Is that more likely on the freeway, especially if the speeds are low, or do they need all those cars cleared out of the way?
Yeah, with all those cars, a pit maneuver is completely off the table. If they can create a traffic break, you could start to think about the possibility of a spike strip, but not with this kind of traffic. There's just way too much traffic and way too many other motorists to even think about that. But a traffic break will be the first strategy. Right now, we don't even see much law enforcement behind him yet. That LAPD pursuit package is trying to catch up to him. In fact, I don't even see, can you tell,
no.
Kyle, how far back they are? Do you see any black and whites back there? Because I have a feeling they might have lost him around Sunset. He bypassed that Sunset exit ramp and continued basically committing himself to the Sepulveda Pass until he gets to Skirball. There's really nowhere for him to get off. I thought that would allow law enforcement to catch up with him, but I don't think they were able to, especially with all of this heavy traffic. So he's basically by himself on the surface. However, as he pulls into that carpool lane, he does have the LAPD airship keeping an eye on his every move. So while they are not directly behind him, they are above him. They are tracking him for all intents and purposes. This is basically in tracking mode for the time being until somebody can pull up behind him, or perhaps until there's another California Highway Patrol unit who happens to be stuck in this traffic. They can get over and try and triangulate and catch up with this pursuit if LAPD asks for that assistance. So we'll see how it plays out here, but he is now all over that shoulder, now all the way over to the left, not even in a position to exit when he gets to Skirball. He's clearly going to end up in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, absolutely going to end up in the San Fernando Valley. Again, we're looking at some images on the right side of the screen where we're seeing the driver take extreme measures to not be pulled over earlier on Wilshire Boulevard in Rodeo. But again, we are on the 405 North heading over the Sepulveda Pass, going past Getty Center Drive. So we know this area is very jam-packed, very busy, a lot of commuters. It is that time of day where kids are out of school. So I think about everybody who's on the road. But you don't see the CHP, you do not see law enforcement. So I feel like there's a false sense of security from a lot of the other commuters right now, not knowing why this driver is driving so erratically around them. It would make me so nervous if I saw this person.
Especially that moment when the driver was going right down the median or the shoulder of the freeway at a really high speed. Thank goodness no other vehicles were involved in that moment. An update, Colleen, to what you were saying. We are getting word now that things here could change. West Valley CHP has been notified about this, and so potentially they could get involved. Chris, let me ask you this. Between LAPD and CHP, do you notice a difference in tactics? Clearly, we're on the freeway now, but basically how they approach this.
So LAPD has notified CHP, and CHP is now basically seeing who's available, which units are available to essentially intercept this pursuit once they have an opportunity. They'll find out where the closest units are and eventually pull up behind him and light him up. What's interesting about the behavior behind the wheel here is that ever since he's basically been on the 405, it has not slowed him down or really had a major impact on his driving. Even though there's really nobody behind him, you would think he would feel some of that pressure come off. If he looks in his rearview mirror, he's basically just blending in with the rest of traffic here, and you would think that maybe if we're lucky, he would slow down. He's slowing down maybe a little bit, just with the flow of traffic. Essentially, he was going a little faster on the shoulder, but he's still driving erratically, still coming within inches of other vehicles and weaving all over those double yellow lines right there in the HOV lane, where he's got not a whole lot of room. He's not giving himself a whole lot of room as he makes these lane changes. So if the driving continues, CHP will be more motivated to get this person off the road, aside from the fact that it's a Grand Theft Auto suspect who they want to catch here. So LAPD has units also in the San Fernando Valley. Obviously, he's still going to be in LAPD's jurisdiction, but on the freeway, California Highway Patrol best equipped to pick up this pursuit, and they are now getting those ducks lined up. So
Yeah,
we'll see as he continues northbound on the 405 freeway, crossing back into the main lanes. It could be worse through this section of the 405, but in the next half mile, it's going to come to a dead stop, and he's going to have virtually nowhere to go other than the shoulder.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the CHP are not right there, because we see them underneath overpasses so many times, and they sit there, they wait, they're very quick on these pursuits. So I am amazed that we haven't seen a CHP engage in this. But again, we know there are so many moving parts to our freeway system just in general for their watch commander to say, all right, we have a pursuit, and then as you know, Chris, there's so many CHP officers in the vicinity that then one person takes the lead, and then I don't know how they coordinate with all the other CHP officers.
Right. Well, they have, obviously they're doing other things. They're responding to other calls. They're traffic, they're conducting traffic stops. They're monitoring construction sites. So they've got to take whoever's available essentially and dispatch them to this location. So it'll start with a primary unit who can at least get behind him and probably wait until those backup units arrive before they even light them up. Or sometimes, if they're a little more aggressive, they will just try and pull the suspect over. This person obviously has no intention of pulling over. I would imagine at some point, guys, he's going to get tired of fighting this traffic, and if he feels a little bit less pressure, he may just get off at maybe Ventura Boulevard or somewhere up here in the valley. He'll have a lot of exits to choose from once he comes out on the other side here. So I think that's what he's going to prepare to do here. But right now, he is fairly committed to that left shoulder, where he's going to have to pull over all the way across those 5 or 6 lanes to get over to any of these exits. But you can see just in the last few minutes, all of that traffic has slowed down considerably as he makes his way into the Sherman Oaks area. As I look off the nose up towards Van Nuys, it really is bumper to bumper the further north he gets. A lot of folks heading home northbound 405 through the San Fernando Valley on a Thursday afternoon. This suspect, I think, is going to be motivated to get out of all of this traffic.
Absolutely. And there are moments right here watching with your video from Air 7. I mean, he has been inches away from some of these vehicles passing on the shoulder, if not maybe even making very light contact. So concerning to see that. And Chris, talking about the possibilities here of what does he do next? And you talk about Sepulveda Boulevard, or Ventura Boulevard, if he gets off like in Sherman Oaks or Encino, how dangerous that would be to pedestrians, the amount of people that are there throughout that corridor. That's got to be really concerning. From your experience, where do you see law enforcement say, okay, maybe this is too dangerous, or do you think they're locked in now and they're going to stick with it?
No, I think they still have the option of canceling this pursuit. They've already done it once, but they saw an opportunity to pick it up. The driving was dangerous. It was getting a lot of publicity, and they decided, you know what, let's get these two off the road. And so that's when the pursuit began again. And again, as we've been on the 405 for the last several minutes, it's virtually back into tracking mode. And in many cases, we see these pursuits go in and out of pursuit mode. So it really depends on the atmosphere around the suspect. They don't want to put the public in even more danger, but at the same time, depending on the information that they have about these two, that will really dictate their final decisions. So that airship is still doing all the work here, but since there's nobody behind him, they have the luxury of having those eyes in the sky to not only call out the location and continue to follow him, but when he does get off the freeway, if he gets off the freeway, they can position themselves adequately to try and either pull him over or once again re-engage with him. But general rule of thumb, Mark, is you'd rather see it on the freeway for the most part than surface streets. There's just so many more variables on surface streets with pedestrians this time of the day and all of the other factors. It's not an ideal situation, but rush hour traffic, especially considering the amount of traffic we're seeing here. But still, even despite that, the freeway is, relatively speaking, the safest place.
Yeah.
Also, once California Highway Patrol does get involved, they will make an attempt to at least try and create a traffic break behind them, and that way you keep innocent motorists away from the pursuit vehicle.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You were just talking about the freeway being the safest location usually for these pursuits. It feels a little bit of a relief that there's not much of a shoulder there, and this person is sort of trapped inside the traffic, because we did see moments ago when they were in Beverly Hills, people didn't realize there was a dangerous driver behind the wheel. Now we see this sudden aggressive moves. Never know, maybe this person is trying to get an exit now because they don't want to be in this traffic. But again, we know this area, the Valley is very busy, especially right now.
Yeah, at least the driver did pass the 101, so he bypassed the Ventura Boulevard option, but now up to Burbank Boulevard into Sherman Oaks. We'll be hitting Van Nuys. So now getting deeper into the San Fernando Valley, and the question is, when or if does he get off the freeway? But, to your point, Chris, we often see much more trouble on the streets when you have all of those intersections and pedestrians. So certainly safer, yes, if it remains here on the freeway, also at the reduced speeds. The question is if and when CHP re-engages and gets back involved.
So two things are happening right here, to your point, Mark. CHP currently is trying to get into position. We don't see them yet, but they are trying. However, as they do that, he is inching his way back over and, sure enough, taking the exit ramp at Burbank Boulevard. So once again, despite their best efforts, California Highway Patrol can, if they're in the area, try and catch up with them. But in all likelihood, I would imagine we may see a West Valley LAPD unit or a Van Nuys unit get involved in this pursuit even sooner here, now that he is going to be back on surface streets. I think, like I said earlier, he got tired of all that traffic. He's had enough. He'd rather navigate surface streets. Again, who knows, where he's, from, where he resides, what area he's most familiar with. But really not helping himself much here either. Burbank Boulevard on at this time of the day, still jam-packed here in the Valley. Traffic is really, really busy this afternoon, and he's now just trying to squeeze through here as he makes an eastbound turn onto Burbank Boulevard. There's an LAPD unit. Look at him right there. That was actually CHP. CHP probably getting ready to intercept him on the freeway, now coming right up head-to-head with him, face-to-face, as he was making that U-turn, or the CHP unit made the U-turn to try and pull the suspect over, and here he is back in hot pursuit, lights and sirens blaring. That CHP unit, now code 3, behind the suspect. Again, for the first time in about 5 or 10 minutes, he now has officers trying to chase him down, and we know every time we have seen that, he starts to push the pedal to the metal and starts to really drive much more aggressively. So California Highway Patrol now adopting this pursuit. One primary unit right behind him. Additional units will make their way over here. If they choose to commit to this pursuit, they will make their way over here, and they will continue to try and end this peacefully. But right now, once again, it looks like that primary unit might have fallen back a little bit, having a hard time keeping up with these erratic moves. He keeps crossing over those double yellow lines, briefly going into oncoming lanes of traffic here, and sure enough, we're continuing to see lots of busy city traffic and pedestrians and everything else you can imagine up here in the Valley as he navigates these streets.
Yeah, I mean, to stay with the vehicle, obviously the airship is there with you, but for the ground units to stay with them, they got to drive just as erratically, which is incredibly dangerous. And you saw there from your view that we do now have several in pursuit. You really feel for
half a dozen CHP units.
Absolutely. Somewhat heartbreaking to realize the age of these individuals. Again, if you're just joining us, we do know that the two people in the car, at least two of them, they got to be young, potentially juveniles or teenagers. There's a male driver, a female in the passenger seat.
Oh, goodness.
And I would estimate, 18, 19 years old, just from the view. There's the video there on the right side of your screen. That is from roughly an hour ago. So this pursuit has been ongoing for about an hour through the LA area, went through Beverly Hills, and now into the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, and going through these intersections and taking such extreme risks for everybody involved. Chris, you said we saw the black and whites behind. I'm not sure if, I know on the right-hand side we're seeing a different video, but we know that is it CHP or is it the LAPD that's behind him? Did you say CHP?
It might have been a combination of both, to be honest with you, which is a little bit unique, but CHP was behind him initially. I think that 5 or 6 units that are going to be coming into the frame here, those are likely going to be LAPD Van Nuys units that continue this pursuit. So CHP saw an opportunity there, but LAPD was already in position, and it seems to me, just based on the number of units that were traveling northbound on Sepulveda that they were really doubling down here. Now he's in a private parking lot here, getting off near Van Owen. He's going to split through the parking lot here and cut through onto Van Owen, make it looks like either a west or eastbound turn here. Here come the units on the top left-hand corner. LAPD going to make the turn through the parking lot with him here. Yep, there they go. They're going to be right behind him momentarily with about 5 or 6 units as he makes a westbound turn onto Van Owen off of Sepulveda Boulevard back towards the 405 freeway. LAPD's airship calling out the location here. And you're right. I mean, with the driving that we're seeing here, guys, each and every twist of that wheel could be a life-changing decision, considering all of the innocent lives that he is putting in to play here, and it really is a serious situation, especially when you consider the age of the driver. So the driver continuing to, evade these officers, but they are really doubling down. I think they are really dedicated to now ending this pursuit at some point.
Yeah, so incredibly dangerous, absolutely, here on the surface streets. In the Van Nuys area, Van Owen and Haskell is the location. The car losing sight of it there, just under the overpass. Chris, talk us through this. Sometimes, okay, he's coming out. I was going to say the times that we do see drivers bail when they get to an underpass, but the driver continuing on. Chris, let me ask you this: from what you've seen, what is the likelihood that the officers keeping their distance there by a block or two is all part of the tactics, that's being done on purpose and not being directly on the bumper of this car?
No, I think they want to get right behind him. They've just had a little bit of a hard time keeping up with him based on the driving and also all the traffic, mostly the traffic. It's been pretty difficult to keep up with the suspect, mainly because of the heavy traffic. They're not going to go into oncoming lanes of traffic with him and split lanes the way he has been, but they have now made every effort to get right behind him, and they are going to try and put more pressure on him, I think, considering the number of units that they have now brought into play here into this pursuit. Look at that, somebody backing out of that parking lot almost got hit by him as he continues westbound on Van Owen. LAPD a little ways back here, but not much, and that is solely because of the traffic. They are going to try and get right behind him, I imagine, here any minute. We're going to see them try and probably position for a pit maneuver if they have the opportunity as he continues down Van Owen here. Again, they have to have enough open roadway to execute a pit maneuver, or perhaps, well, yeah, they need an open area, basically, where there's just not so many innocent motorists on either side of them. If they can do that, I think a pit maneuver will then become a much more viable option. But just all of this traffic they have to fight here, and they must have been caught back at that previous intersection. He's been blowing through red lights as well, and that is also making it difficult for them to keep up.
No kidding. And we were talking about it moments ago when that CHP sort of inadvertently got tangled into this pursuit. I was thinking that CHP officer probably wanted to do a pit maneuver, but just didn't have that one extra second to get in position, which then this driver, again, he has been making some reckless moves, but he has been very hard to catch. I know we're trying to locate that car right now, but we are seeing we're seeing the LAPD, I believe, right here at this intersection, look like Van Owen and Havenhurst. But again, we're trying to locate this car. I think you see him right there, Chris. But again, now we're seeing we see where the LAPD or the CHP is very close behind. But you said it right. I was wondering what kind of illegal maneuvers will law enforcement make to try to catch this person? So you answered that question. They're not going to go in oncoming traffic. They are going to try to follow as much rules of the road to keep everybody safe.
And typically, we really see, if they do that, we see their speed just more reduced compared to this suspect who's just blowing down those center lanes, which is so dangerous for drivers who may be turning or not seeing him coming, like we're watching right now. 55 miles per hour here, Van Owen and Amistoy. The officers still in pursuit of this driver. Chris, let's acknowledge this. What we don't know is if this male driver, this young guy, is armed. That is something we have no information about, correct?
Correct. We do not know whether he is armed, and if he's armed, what kind of weapon it is. Because if it's a gun, and if LAPD is aware of a gun in the vehicle, again, we have no information to insinuate this just yet. But in that event, that would be a situation. Look at him wedged now between is he going to try and jump out here, or is he just sandwiched in? He's got some room to play with. I think he can get through here, although that mirror might hit. He's He's trying to avoid coming into contact with that white car, continuing now on a 2-lane Van Owen Street as he approaches Louise Avenue. If there was a gun in that car, for example, Mark, that would take a pit maneuver virtually off the table. So things like that do come into play. Whether they have that information or not, we don't know. But so far, we have not heard of any talk of a weapon. Again, so far the only crime that we're aware of, grand theft auto here, but again, something tells me there may be more to the story, as you can tell.
Or they're just incredibly immature, and they don't want to get in trouble. They're going to get in a lot of trouble. We already know that. But
when you speak about the immaturity, that's why I said I was heartbroken. Just when you have these ages, like these kids, I mean, just give it up. Like you have no idea, you know, the repercussions here at play. It's really tough to see that. And you just hope nobody else gets injured.
That's the number one. I'm sure, Chris, we're all, every time this person goes on to oncoming traffic, I'm holding my breath because this one has taken such extreme measures to not be pulled over that it just gets so close to getting into a crash.
Well, now he's on White Oak, so let's see if this changes things a little bit. He's doing about 60 miles per hour northbound on White Oak, coming up on Sherman, but White Oak is not very busy right now. This will be the opportunity that LAPD has. Look at this. Is this an unmarked unit? This might be an unmarked unit that is now getting behind him. It's either an unmarked unit or a complete civilian, but somebody has just pulled up behind him. It does not look like an unmarked unit, to be honest with you.
No.
Can you pull in on the plate there really quick? Somebody has just, that is a Florida license plate that has just pulled up behind the suspect. It is a concerned citizen, I'm being told. Apparently, according to radio traffic, this is a concerned citizen who has just involved themselves in this pursuit. Now going the opposite way, passing all of those LAPD units going the other way on White Oak Avenue. Now White Oak, I was about to say, is seeing much less traffic right now, and this would have been the opportunity before he turned around to maybe get up right behind him and apply a little pressure, maybe even get a better look inside the vehicle. But now LAPD is further back on White Oak. They're going to have to make that turn with him after he made that parking lot cut through. And now you have another person, a quote-unquote concerned citizen, who is now following the suspect. This really does change things for law enforcement because they need to pull that person off. They need to get involved.
Incredibly
they
bizarre.
Need to keep these people separated.
And dangerous.
Look out.
Wow, look at him crashing
goodness.
up on the curb. He loses control, crashing up on the curb. The driver out of the driver's side door, a female passenger now running for it, and somebody is chasing them. Somebody is chasing them
Do you think
through
family?
this neighborhood,
No.
down an alleyway off of Hesperia Avenue at Van Owen Street in Reseda. As he runs down this alleyway, putting up his hood here, he's running as fast as he can as he tries to keep his pants up. LAPD now in the alleyway with him, with at least 3 units pulling in there. He's now going to try to jump onto private property. He's not going to have a chance to jump that fence. The LAPD is now going to take him immediately into custody, forcing his hands behind his back here before he even had the chance to jump into that backyard. What a dramatic end to this chase. Finally coming to an end here in Reseda. LAPD able to corner the suspect on private property here in an alleyway without anybody getting hurt. You saw him just make the random move. I don't know if he lost control or if he made the conscious decision to just run up on the curb like that, but he decided enough was enough, decided he can give it up, maybe thinking he could run fast enough. There's the girlfriend. She's being taken into custody, and they have to deal with they're all running back to that vehicle, by the way, to make sure that there's nobody else inside that car. So they're all going to run as fast as they can back to the vehicle, make sure the vehicle's cleared. But now they have to sort out who's who here and why other people are getting involved. Now you have other neighbors, concerned citizens coming out to get a look at what's going on. LAPD has to make sure there's nobody else inside the car, either in the front, the back, or the trunk. So we'll see them clear the vehicle momentarily and declare a code 4. But man, kind of an unexpected end to this one, guys.
That woman who ran, she's right there on the parkway, getting off the sidewalk. Go back down below. There was the woman who got out right there. Yeah. That's the woman who ran from the SUV, and her sweatshirt almost matches the license plate with the rainbow. She is being taken into custody. It had the look of a family member. The way that she chased the young man running from the car, it appeared to be that she was trying to communicate with him, and now she is being taken into custody for her interference in the situation, though it did appear from that shot a moment ago that the vehicle that she was in has also now left the scene.
Right, and I'm not sure that was the driver. The driver of that white SUV that just engaged in this pursuit, they were the good Samaritan, if you will, that engaged in this pursuit. That driver had a white short sleeve shirt on, and that's what I viewed. So again, I don't even know what type of charges somebody would face, but it is so ill-advised to ever participate in a pursuit. Chris, this was, again, we saw that this suspect try to get away, try to hop a fence, try to get into a gate. That's why you lock your gates because of something like this.
Yes, something motivated that person to get involved. I believe the driver was the actual suspect in the gray hoodie. And then you have two females. So we have a passenger here, two females total in custody, one male in custody, and now LAPD really has to go back and kind of sort out who's who here to make sure they've got everybody they need in custody and then make sure there's no outstanding suspects at all. But you're right, this came to an end in this alleyway as that driver right there, he looks really young now that we get a much better look. I mean, we're talking maybe 16, 17, 18 at the most, guys. I mean,
yeah, as expected,
really
a young kid for sure. But thank goodness that he's in custody and we did not see any major crash to end this thing. So we can, at least feel good about that one. Chris Christie live there on Air 7. Thank you so much. That wraps up here. Eyewitness News at 3 p.m. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 4. We are back to our storm coverage. A lot of rain making its way down to Southern California this evening. We will have the very latest at 4.